This lesson is an introduction to the stock market and some of the ratios that are out there to compare different shares. Just before we start, a brief introduction on what a share is. The main idea is we have a company, say it's something like Coles, and we divide it up into a whole heap of different shares that different people can own. Perhaps these two are owned by one person. Maybe it's your mum or dad. They own shares, part of the company. Coles makes profit, and they'll give part of the profit to the shareholder as a dividend. The price the person pays for the share changes from time to time. Originally, when Coles cut up their business, they offer shares for a par value or a face value. Over time, the price fluctuates. It changes in these sorts of graphs that you'll see on the TV. The current price, so today's price, is called the market value. What it was originally, par value or face value. That's the idea with shares. In this table, we can see a lot of information about shares. So what they last sold for on the day, whether the movement was positive or negative, how many thousand shares were sold, what the buy and sell was during the day, what the buy and sell was during the year, and these last two, which we'll look at how to calculate in this lesson. Question now is probably, well, how do I know which of these shares to choose? Well, we'll use these things to compare shares. Dividend, dividend percentage, dividend yield, price earnings ratio, earnings per share. We'll look at how to calculate these, and it'll probably make a bit more sense. For cab charge, shares have floated for $2 per share. This year, cab charge is giving a dividend of 32 cents per share. They made this profit and this many issued shares. So I'll calculate each of these things. Part A, the dividend. They're giving a dividend of 32 cents per share. That's pretty easy. We're just reading it from the question. Part B, the dividend percentage. I'll look at my formula, which will be provided to me in the exam. My dividend percentage. I'll find this by getting the dividend per share and dividing by the par value of the share, the original value of the share, and multiplying by 100 to make it into a percentage. My dividend per share was 32 cents, and my par value of the share was $2. Since my par value is in dollars, I need to make my dividend in dollars as well. Times by 100 to make it into a percentage. I end up with 16% as my dividend percentage. A pretty good interest rate. I can then have a look at the dividend yield. Okay. Again, have a look at the formula, dividend per share divided by the market value of the share. Okay, from this formula at the top. Again, times by 100 to make it into a percentage. 32 cents. What's the market value of the share? Well, it's not in the question, but I can see up here it's $9.87, the current value of the share. So $9.87 times by 100%, make it into a percentage, end up with 3.2% as my dividend yield. This one is probably the most important ratio, okay, the dividend yield, because it's similar to an interest rate. It's essentially an interest rate, so we can compare that to our bank interest rate or our actual rate of return of our investment property. I'll look at part D, earnings per share. Make sure I can see it. Earnings per share is profit of the company divided by the number of shares. Essentially, this is how much profit you own of the company for each of the shares that you own. So in Cab Charger's case, they made a profit of $31.2 million. This many dollars divided by their number of shares, 69,333,333,333. Do the division, I end up with 0.45 or 45 cents per share. You'll notice that your share of the profit was 45 cents, but they only gave 32 cents as a dividend. What happens to the other 13 cents is that the company will keep it and reinvest and do things to make more profit in the future to hopefully raise the share price. Okay, final one is the PE ratio. I'll look up at my formula, market value of the share divided by earnings per share. This division, market value of the share was $9.87 and the earnings per share is 45 cents. So I end up with a PE ratio of 21.9. So all of these ratios, dividend per share, dividend percentage, dividend yield, earnings per share, we all want all these to be really big. The PE ratio, we want to be as low as possible. Because this is essentially saying the company takes almost 22 years to make back in profit the amount you invested. Remember, on the bottom is profit, the top is market value. You buy the share for the market value. How long does it take them to remake that money? In the questions in the text, it's not always as simple as that one we looked at. So here's some sort of problem solving activities. So you can read through the question. She paid this much for shares in an IT company and received a dividend of 8 cents per share. Part A, what's the dividend yield? So dividend yield, I'll go back to my formula sheet and find that it's the dividend per share divided by the market value of the share made into a percentage. My dividend per share is 8 cents. And the market value of the share, what she bought for it, what she paid for them, is $2.49. Times by 100. Get a dividend yield of 3.21%. So part A was reasonably straightforward. Part B might be a bit more interesting. If the shareholders receive 60% of the company's profit as a dividend, what is the price-earnings ratio of the company? I'll write my formula for price-earnings ratio. The market value divided by the earnings per share. And I'll look in the question, do I know the market value? Yep. Do I know the earnings per share? Doesn't really tell me that anyway. However, I know that this dividend of 8 cents represents 60% of the profit. So I know that 8 cents equals 60% of the earnings per share. So I want to know how much did the company actually earn per share if they're only giving me 8 cents. So I'll know that 8 cents is 0.6 of the earnings per share. To get the earnings per share by itself, I'll divide both sides by 0.6. End up with an earnings per share of 13.33 cents. So now I can go ahead and calculate my price earnings ratio. My PE ratio, market value divided by earnings per share, will be $2.49. So correction, $2.49 divided by my 13.33 cents. This 13.33 should be in cents. $0, 13.33 cents. End up with a PE ratio of 18.68. Again, quite a high PE ratio. So that's one sort of problem. I'll look at this other sort of problem that we can see. I'll take a similar sort of approach. Todd bought a parcel of shares of parcel of 500 $2 shares in a medical research company for $17.85. That sounds weird. 500 $2 shares, 1785. Oh, so this $2 must be what they were originally. This $2 is the par value, or the face value. The dividend was 12%. Didn't say dividend yield, so I need to assume that this is the dividend percentage. What were the market price and dividend yield? Ooh, that looks tough. I'll try the market price first. So how much did he pay per share? Well, he paid $17.85, and for that he received 500 shares. So each share was $3.57. I'll have a go at finding the dividend yield. So I'll write my formula for dividend yield and see how I go, see if I know all the things involved. Dividend yield is dividend per share divided by the market value of the share. And multiply by 100, make it into a percentage. Do I know both of these things? No, well, I know the dividend percentage. That's not the dividend per share. Do I know the market value of the share? Yep, I calculated that. So I need to find the dividend per share. The way I'll get here is using the dividend percentage. Okay, thankfully, I know what the dividend percentage is, and I know its formula. Dividend per share divided by the par value of the share. Okay, multiply by 100%. Substitute in the things I know. I know this is 12%. Dividend per share I'm trying to find, so I'll write that as X. Par value of the share, well, it was originally $2, and multiply by 100 to make it into a percentage. To get X by itself, okay, 12, I need to multiply it by 2 and divide by 100. So I'll end up with a dividend per share of 24 cents. So now I can go ahead and calculate my dividend yield. Dividend yield, I'll rewrite my formula, dividend per share divided by the market value of the share, and times by 100, make it into a percentage, and I can put in these two values I know. This X was the dividend per share, so I can slot it in here. Market value of the share was $3.57, times by 100, make it into a percentage, get 6.72%. So in this problem solving section, you can see there's all of these ratios that we can use. Sometimes we won't know all the information, but using our information and all the formulae, we should be able to get to what's required of us. Okay, here's questions to have a go at. Good luck.